I told you I grew up in Seattle. I'm the baby of 8 kids. And true, 2 of the kids in my family were adopted. But my parents never told us which 2. That'll mess you up. I was talking that over with my brother, Lee Fong, and he thought it was Abdul. I thought it was the twins. No one knows. But I was the baby of 8, and it was rough. And one time when I was 7 years old, they said, hey, Dad has to go in the hospital for some tests. And so my dad went in for the tests, and I was raised Catholic, and my dad had a client whose name was Pastor Bennett, and Pastor Bennett wrote a book called The Holy Spirit in You. It's all about becoming born again and how God fills your life. And my dad my mom gave him Pastor Bennett's book called 9 o'clock in the morning. Comes from a reference in the book of Acts about the Holy Spirit coming down. People go, these people are drunk. They go, no, they're not drunk. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. They're speaking with other tongues. This is supernatural. And so my dad read the book, and he prayed with Pastor Bennett. And 2 days later, my dad died at exactly 9 o'clock in the morning. I have the death certificate. As a matter of fact, the morning, 2 mornings before that, it was Christmas morning, he wasn't gonna be able to come home. They said, we're gonna let him come home to open presents for Christmas morning, and then he's gotta go back to the hospital. And they called us about 4 a.m. and said, you better get down here, he's not gonna make it. So we went down, it's maybe 6 in the morning, and there's a line drawn, it's oldest kid to the baby. And each kid goes in and says goodbye to their dad. And they go, and they go, and they go, and they go, and then it's just me. And the nurse comes out, and they said, the little one doesn't come in. He doesn't come in. Why don't I get to see my dad? I don't know. So that haunted me. I couldn't figure that out. Another thing God did was, my dad had borrowed $34,000. This is 1972. He borrowed $34,000. That was a lot of money then, a lot more than it is now, to start a business. But this couple was in there maybe about 70 years old that he borrowed it from. And they had my dad insured for $250,000. $250,000 in 1972 would be millions now. They got all that money. My mom got $100,000 to raise us kids. And they were suing us for the $34,000 of that. And after lawyer's fees, she might only have $50,000 left. And she's like, I'm gonna lay a guilt trip on this lady. I'm gonna lay a guilt trip. And in the middle of and so she had a meeting set up, and in the middle of the night, God spoke to her. She said it was the most beautiful voice she'd ever heard. She said it sounded like it came across more than the whole universe. And it said, read James chapter 3, verse 5, then 3. He's like, why that? My mom had to find it in the Bible, figure out what chapter 3 was about. Chapter 3 is about controlling your tongue. Like a small rudder can turn a ship, like a small flame can start a whole forest fire. You got to control your tongue. So she didn't know what God was saying, but she thought maybe I'm supposed to hold my tongue and not lay into this lady. So she brought my godfather to be a mediator between them. And my mom obeyed God and just sat quietly. And that lady got more angry during the meeting, more angry. She gets up, storms out, stops, goes, how much do you want? And she wrote us a check for, I think, $3,000 or $4,000. So as a child, I saw that God was there. He gave me a sign that that Dad died at 9 in the morning and that he had control of the circumstances. He gave me that. He gave me that he will look out for the widows and the orphans. He spoke to my mother, she obeyed, and he looked out for us. So I've always known that. But of the 8 kids, half saw God's hand and half went crazy. They didn't see God's hand. They became angry, bitter, a lot of drug use, a lot of violence. It was not safe in my home, in my opinion. It was crazy. So time goes on, and you can watch the difference of those who understood God was there. I don't know what you guys are going through. Everybody's got something. I'm telling you, God is there, and you can see it or not. You can see it or not. Doesn't mean it's going to solve every one of your problems. I'm not going to get my dad back, but I know God's there, and he'll be there with you, taking you through it. But you got to see it. Because about 20 some years later, I'm with my brother talking, and I said to him, my brother became a drug addict, alcoholic, rough run. I said, can't you see what God did for us? Can't you see what God did for us? And he goes, what are you talking about? God effed us. God effed me. God effed you. God effed Dad. And that's when I go, oh, he's still 11. He's stuck. He's broken. So just know God is there.